Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special Wrestle Kingdom 15 slash New Japan special edition of the and there's only two of them this time, Mark's Wrestling Recap Show. I'm Athletic Geek. I am joined by Charloco, the kind of the fifth Beatle of the group who comes in to talk New Japan. Um,
I'll take it.
I'll take and we're fixing to get to Wrestle Kingdom 15, but as you possibly saw on the Year End Awards live stream, unlike years past, I'm not really feeling New Japan Pro Wrestling like I
I feel
have in
like
the past.
could be wrong, but I feel like the last few times I've called in or I've been brought in to talk about New Japan, like I just feel like it generally has to open with "What the fuck?"
Exactly! What the fuck? That's evil! What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of. They're kind of in the big what the fuck part, but there is still not trying to make it seem like this is something that I completely hate. There is some good things to talk about. We will give our Wrestle
Yeah.
Kingdom predictions, but we do need to probably talk about the state of New Japan right now. I know there's a lot of people around YouTube that
The state of your company, mate.
the state of your company, mate, exactly. Kind of saying that some going a little bit more extreme than others here on the platform, but they're pretty well saying that new. Some people have gone so far as to say New Japan isn't good anymore. I'm not going to say it's not any good. I will say that it's definitely when you're used to. It's like if a baseball team's used to winning the World Series and hitting the most home runs in a year, both for the last several years and now this year they hit the most home runs, but now they're not really winning the World Series. That's kind of the only thing I can kind of compare it to. It used to be best
Uh,
wrestling, best storylines, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now there's still some damn good wrestling there. Don't get me wrong, but it's just kind of the creativity and the hype around it. Um, Definitely not as prevalent as it has been since 2013, 2014, and
some people are probably like get mad at me for saying this, but I kind of compare it to mid 2000s TNA. Uh,
okay.
like where it's like if you watch it, you're gonna find you're gonna find some good content. There's gonna be some good matches. There's gonna be something that you will find enjoyment of. But you're still gonna have to dredge through I don't know Jeff Jarrett bullshit or some kind of contrived booking or something. The only
Right.
issue is with mid 2000s TNA is just you're just watching something on Spike TV. This is more. This is like trying to watch TNA, except having to go out of your way of watching it at 5 in the morning on a very terrible streaming service
Yeah.
and trying to make your schedule around that.
Exactly. And you know, other folks on the platform, have theorized it was all this came crashing down, or the beginning of the end was in 2018 when they were arguably at their hottest. Um, it was everything from overkill on the elite to the exodus of the elite to the Madison Square Garden show. There's been so many theories, but I mean, I've kind of let it be known on my live stream where I kind of stand. But what say you? Where do you kind of feel New Japan kind of started dipping in terms of their quality?
That's actually a very good question because I feel like I don't want to just because I feel like regardless if there was COVID or not, I feel like Wrestle Kingdom this year was kind of like their peak, their victory lap,
Right,
uh, like almost like what WrestleMania 17 was.
right. Like
So
only in WrestleMania 17, it was rather than it being the big moment of finally, it was like, oh, this is over now. The big run was the big storyline that kind of kept this whole thing going was over.
True.
That's the only kind of difference I can think of between the two
True, but
events.
like in success of the company and running this huge building 2 nights in a row after like years of getting hotter and hotter, this seemed like the payoff to everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could kind of see some cracks in the last few years, but I think it mainly just came down to a combination of law of diminishing returns, of just getting that same good thing over and over again,
Right.
/ now that we're kind of in a transitional period, which was going to happen either like anyway, but is a bit more harder to hide the growing pains because of
Right.
COVID.
Right.
You can kind of
Yeah.
see where things aren't working. Whereas opposed to if it was still, like New Japan running full force, I feel like there'd have been enough of the presentation to distract you from
Right.
some of the more obvious issues.
Um. Yeah. I kind of. I kind of agree with you. Like, there's kind of eventually everything's gonna hit its peak. Like
Yeah.
I get
I
accused
mean,
on the
that's any promo. I mean, that's any
yeah.
hot promotion, but still.
Well, I mean, I get accused frequently of being, an AEW fanboy because right now it's probably it's the promotion that I enjoy the most. But I mean, eventually AEW is going to hit a creative peak too, and we're going to go, God, remember AEW in 2019 when they first started, or in 2020, 2021 when Kenny and Don Callis were there, and
Yeah.
Cody was doing this with MJF. And we're gonna. Oh man, it's a shame that's just like not creatively there, and X guy
True, but
isn't as good as he was before. That's gonna happen. I mean, like it happened with NXT. NXT was considered
yeah.
wrestling perfection in 2014, 2015, and then
Yeah. I
Bobby
mean,
Roode
and you
was a
know me,
great
I
wrestler,
was
but
like,
eventually it tapered off.
yeah. And you know me, I was one of the few people that was kind of like calling it out a few years ahead of time, or just talking about Hunter as a booker. And even then, they were still pulling out, or they were still churning out like a year or two of just like really good takeovers. So
Right,
like, even if my points were valid, they were still they were still churning, they were still producing good enough to that it didn't really matter until like it kind of hit the wall.
right, and but I kind of feel like kind of creatively, like maybe I think COVID kind of really expedited the feeling of, hey, this isn't the promotion that we were getting excited about a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I feel like, uh, I feel like this is going to happen regardless. But the the fact that everything had to be shuffled, there was so many matches that had to be just canceled. So many shows that had to be canceled. Definitely, international stars not being able to be brought in. And there's a giant void with that. I know. Not trying to be hard on Mox, it's not his fault, but I mean, you kind of sometimes wonder, hey, if he could have been brought in, would maybe the mid card feel as lackluster as it is in New Japan?
I mean,
And
yeah, that's a good point. Where like, if they were still even, let's say, pushing Evil or pushing Osprey or Jay in the positions they were now, people aren't feeling it. It's like, okay, I'm not feeling this, but oh look, they're doing Moxley and Suzuki again, or look at Hiromu having this great junior heavyweight reign, or
right,
et cetera, et cetera.
it's I hate to kind of say it, but I feel like in New Japan they've kind of gone the WWE route where it's like outside, there end up being for a while more emphasis put on the tag division and certain things like that, but then here lately it's almost just felt like, hey, if it's not in WWE, there's kind of a problem I've always had with their booking is here's the world title, here's a really good underneath program, and everything else is just kind of there. Every now and again, the Intercontinental title will have like a good storyline, you'd be excited, but for the most part, it's just kind of there. The tag
Yeah.
division is kind of just there. Here's two guys, here's four guys, and just go. Have a funny segment and go. Here's two mid carders, or whatever, and here's the Intercontinental Championship or the U.S. Championship, and just go have fun, whatever. And in the case of New Japan right now, it's here's the two title defenses for the night. There's Naito versus Ibushi, and then the winner of that will wrestle Jay, and then there's Okada and Ospreay, and nothing else feels like it's worth a fuck. Like, there's no hype around it. There's no, this is a big fucking deal. Three.
And granted, maybe maybe they could have hyped it up if they weren't busy like running 2 tournaments at once after just completing another tournament.
Right.
While also having a tournament in America.
Right. Which I haven't even really seen much of that, because it's like, oh, okay. I mean,
yeah.
But it's, nothing, 3 years ago, or a little less than 3, but whatever, we were getting ready to go into Wrestle Kingdom. Kenny was getting ready to wrestle Jericho, and then right after Kenny wrestles Jericho, he gets put in a feud with upstart Jay White, and this was before I feel like he was force-fed too much, and I started really resenting Jay. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, here's this kind of a different concept with what Jay's doing with Chaos, and he's wrestling Kenny, and Kenny's kind of, can tell he wants to be with Ibushi again, but you can tell he wants to have his stable, and there's Cody, who's kind of trying to wrestle control away from the stable away, and there's kind of like, okay, this is creatively good, and this belt, which, feels kind of snake bit as far as just, it never really, since then, gets really not really used well, like it just not really, didn't really catch fire like it was. I was excited about that match. I was excited about, seeing the U.S. title. When they went to the Cow Palace, I was emotionally invested in Juice Robinson's journey to get his first championship, and like that was the match I was the most pumped up to see was Juice and Jay, because I was buying into how they were using Juice. But like now it's like, here's the main event and do it, Great wrestling still going on, but it's like, okay, why should I care about the never openweight title anymore? Despite Shingo and Suzuki putting on bangers all year for it, it doesn't seem like it's something worth giving a shit about. The U.S. title's MIA. Why give a shit about that? They're Hiromu and Ishimori were having some, at the the ballpark show was having great match for the junior title, but it doesn't feel like it's important,
Yeah, but I think just from around 2012, 2013, and going forward, I think New Japan realized what was really getting them this mainstream attention again, or just, this momentum, was being this promotion with great heavyweight singles matches. So, like, to guarantee more of that, they just kept adding more, heavyweight singles titles for wrestlers to fight over. So then everybody can have, like, really good matches. And that worked for a while, but it's kind of, like, hit that peak where it feels like unless they really want to, like, move divisions around, they've really hit every possible combination and every possible feud, unless they want to, like, I think it'd be good if they moved some of, like, the never open weight guys into, like, the tag division, so they can have a bunch of, like, kick-ass tag matches, and then they kind of move, like, some new challengers for the, IWGP title, or so on and so forth. Like, just shifting things around for, like, fresh matches, but yeah, we'll see. January, like, I don't know, this could be a good, like, January 4th and forward, this may, like, I do want to give them a little bit of, like, possibility, just because it'll be, like, a full, potentially normal year for them.
Right.
Well, if they actually get a run. But, like, it feels like, okay, we're back on the track that we were trying to get to. Maybe they can then, like, kind of get a bit more normal. So I still want to give them that benefit of the doubt, just to see what they can do there.
I'm by no means saying that New Japan is going to be a bad company. going
Yeah.
from here on out. I do think that that golden era is over. It you know
Yeah.
you compared it to WrestleMania 17, and granted, yeah, the invasion storyline wasn't that good, but I mean, in 2002, 2003, there were still good things about the WWE. You
Yeah.
did have, you had the SmackDown 6, you had the return of Shawn Michaels, you may not the best wrestling, but I mean, they did kind of have something with Hulk Hogan's return. You had some things there that were still worth getting excited about with WWE, but it just was not
Yeah.
the hot company from the Attitude Era. Those days were over. That's
But
kind
it's
of where I'm really thinking
yeah.
New Japan is. You got some good stuff. You got some good wrestlers. You got some things that people can still get invested in, but it's not the kind of thing that I'm going to take, 10 vacation days from my real job to catch the last 10 days of the G1 Climax like I did, in
Yeah.
2018. Or I'm not going to, not going to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning and go to bed at 7 o'clock in the morning because there's a New Beginning show, you know? Um, I feel like those days, unless the fourth and fifth really pull a giant fucking rabbit out of the hat, I don't feel like those are. I feel like for me, those days are over.
But this is kind of a weird mix, though, because we are talking from a Westerner's perspective, where for us, really wanting to follow New Japan, that is a commitment
Mm-hmm.
that we don't necessarily need for AEW or like well WWE because of so many hours. But
Right.
we're in a position where we don't necessarily need to dig that far for good mainstream wrestling anymore.
Right.
That kind of hurts a Westerner on the Western side. However, we don't really know how the local audience is reacting to it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, outside of COVID, unless we don't really know their business wise, but unless COVID is hurting them financially, there's really no indication that of what they're doing is or is not getting over. It seems like they've been getting enough people with their capacity, they're not having problems filling in the small percentage of those small percentages of crowds they're running.
Right.
But with no one can really chant, so we don't they're doing the clapping, shows you
Yeah.
something, so we don't really know what's getting hot or what's not getting over. And Japanese audiences, it seems like they're a bit more loyal, so
Right.
I feel like they're not really ones to rage quit.
Right. Exactly. Something else just to kind of keep in mind. I mean, I get what you're saying. It's a very, very valid point.
Yeah.
But do you also think that part of the crowd still filling up is maybe not so much? I'm not saying there's no loyalty there, but you think that part of it is also kind of, hey, that's something to do. We got the Japanese citizens just like other citizens. Hey, you're open to do some stuff. Let's go. I can do something. Let's be safe. Let's be smart. But 5,000 people can go see some wrestling at you know the I don't know what the name of the ballpark park is, but hey, if we can go, let's go. Let's go out and do something so we can be entertained. After being socially distant and everything for 2 months. Do you feel like that's a factor at all? It's just kind of maybe more so, hey, let's go because it's something to do, and we weren't able to do anything, or do you think it is more of a
Possibly,
loyalty to the product itself?
yeah, possibly, but I feel like we really can't tell one way or another unless more people from there can really kind of give
Right.
us their perspective. Because I'm just saying there could be a situation as things continue, if they're not too hurt by COVID, where it's New Japan continues in this specific direction, and it's we may not like it, but it's still turning a profit there because of just how their business works. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it just may be a thing of like, okay, well, we've already kind of lost that Western audience, but we're still like pulling profit here, and Harold's gone, so let's just kind of keep
Right.
running as is.
Um, it's interesting. You mentioned losing the Western audience is. I'm sure we've talked about this before, but like, how do you think that even with Harold, that New Japan took the Western expansions as seriously as we like to think they did, or do you think it was just kind of like New Japan going to America was like no different than when WWE would go to Japan?
I don't know. I think they took it a bit more serious, but I think it's they. I don't really think they knew what they wanted or how to get it, just because of just that barrier.
Right. Because it just kind of, you went to one of the New Japan shows in the United States.
Two actually,
Two.
like two
Okay.
of the. I went to the good one and the bad one.
Um.
Yeah, I went to the Long Island show with Omega or with Golden Lovers against the Bucks,
Okay.
uh, which was great. And then they ran one of the first USA house shows here in Charlotte, which
Right.
the one
Yeah.
with all American wrestlers.
Yeah. So well, that one I'm not really counting, but that's just because there was issues going on at the time that
I
prevented.
mean, I'll gladly share that story of
Oh.
that event one day because I feel like there's
Yeah. But you went to the one with Golden Lovers versus Young Bucks. What was the undercard for that show? Because I mean, I know that was a match that the American audience wanted to see. Through BTE and everything that was going on, but I feel like with every New Japan and the United States show that they had, I always feel like they kind of deviated from what made New Japan special to the New Japan audience because they're like, hey, we really gotta Western it up a lot more, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's also just kind of like, I really don't feel like I'm watching New Japan. Like, case in point, the Cow Palace show. Yes, you needed to have some kind of conclusion to Cody versus Kenny, but, like, none of that felt like I was watching New Japan Pro Wrestling. It felt like I was watching Ring of Honor.
well with the Long Beach show. Well, I mean, uh, Bucks and Lovers was like the right match to like
Oh, yeah.
go for that. But I will say it felt like they really tried to push the U.S. title as like a main event on that level, which I feel like would not have like drawn at all or really been a possibility if this was like a road to show in Japan,
Right.
which was Hangman and Switchblade.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, that's... Hangman was not... He wasn't the guy that he is now
yeah.
at that time.
However, I will say with that card, I think that also just showed one barrier issue was for me. I feel like if you actually looked at that card and how like the undercard was put together, it was probably the most authentic New Japan show in the sense it was very much the undercard matches where it's multi-mans, but you still get to see like the big names.
Right.
But like they had a big I can't remember if it was 8-man or 10-man, Lij versus Tanahashi and friends match, and then match opens with both Naito and Tanahashi squaring off, which obviously gets a big pop. But then the rest of it's kind of just the guys doing their spots.
Right.
But that's what kind of works for a show like that. I feel like, and then there was also Okada and Ishii against Zack Sabre Jr. and Suzuki, which was
Right.
great. But it felt like it was all multi-man matches with the names doing the hits to build towards I think it was Sakura Genesis at the time, and that's the cards they kind of do for these Road 2 shows. But like you could tell like the I don't want to say the casuals, but the I got into New Japan because of the Elite.
Right.
They're complaining about what kind of fucking card is this when it's like this is the kind of cards they run for like these
Right.
medium-sized shows.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think that and just the whole we're not going to tell you the majority of the show until like 24 hours beforehand. Right. Even if like that just can't fly in America.
No. No, you can't. People, American fans got to know what they're seeing before
Yeah.
they buy a ticket.
Like even if you don't want to spoil, like I know their situation is like they don't want to announce shows too far ahead that like spoil other shows. But
Right.
like, let's say if you're wanting, I don't know, let's say if you're wanting to do Tanahashi going for the title on that specific show, but you don't want to, but you know, instead of waiting like less than a month before the show happens to announce it, you could just be like Tanahashi saying, you know, implying I want this match in that build, or you know, I want to go for the title in that building, and I'm gonna try and win a bunch of singles matches to get there. So the audience is knowing, oh, that's what like they, even if the match hasn't been like kayfabe confirmed yet, you know, oh, he set out that challenge and that's what they're building to. I'm gonna get my ticket to see it.
Right. Yeah. Um, it's just I feel.
Oh, you there? Sorry, I dropped my
Oh,
phone.
oh, you're good. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out the right way to say this. I feel that like in modern times with New Japan, they they do want to do things to get an American audience because the American audience is different than the Japanese audience. You know, you do need something to kind of capture that audience. You know, like case in point, hey, maybe in an American show with the majority of people who watch Being the Elite, it is the right call to put Kenny and Cody in the main event. That's like there's nothing inherently wrong with that for the audience, but on the flip side of all of that, it's like you also have quite a few people that want to have an authentic New Japan experience, and they're getting kind of, you know, I don't want to say bootleg New Japan, but you're kind of getting the, um, you're getting
You're
kind of
getting the New Japan thinking what they think American
yeah,
wrestling is.
yeah. It's like you're not getting the local, you know, Chinese restaurant, or you're not getting, you know, the local Mexican restaurant where you're getting it authentic. You're getting kind of you're getting kind of like a half-ass fast food version of it. That's kind of the vibe I got from a lot of the shows, and you know, I feel like they in the last few years they've sacrificed some of the integrity of their booking because, like, well, we got to get this audience, not realizing that there's still. And this is where I'm going to pick on Jay. And anybody who watched my live stream knows I make no bones about the fact of how I feel about Jay. But this is where I'm going to kind of pick on Jay a little bit. I feel like they think they got to keep pushing him to the main event because we need the Bullet Club. We need that Western audience. Bullet Club, Bullet Club, Bullet Club. And Jay's the Bullet Club guy now, so we need that. But as long as Jay's on the card and in a featured role, i.e., Jay versus, I know they can't do it, they should be like, Jay versus Moxley. Oh, as long as he's in a featured role and you're saying, look at Moxley, look at Jay and the U.S. title, and, you know, fucking Jay's going, shut bro, I beat somebody who just whipped your ass for that belt, and shut bro, I'm going to beat your ass again, take it back. And then you have Moxley say his piece, and I'm not going to let you, whatever. And you have a match featuring the Bullet Club, elevating the title, and it's still like, that's good. But instead they're like, oh, we need that American audience. Jay's got to win the briefcase. And we got to make sure Jay gets a main event out of this.
Or, oh, we're running the biggest arena in the world with our biggest American audience ever. Man, we could we could do our classic main event rivalry right here, but fuck it, no, let's do Jay and Okada.
Yeah. You know, again, you know, I know a lot of people bought those tickets were people who went to All In and people who had that emotional tie to the Bullet Club. It's like, as long as Bullet Club's on the card, you're gonna get that audience. Hype the undercard match. Fucking have Jay and Gorillas of Destiny versus, you know, Evil Sonata and Bushi, and actually go like, we're gonna give you in Madison Square Garden Bullet Club LIJ War, and the Bullet Club fans are gonna be there. The LIJ fans are gonna be there. They're gonna think it's a big deal if you go, we're gonna have the two biggest factions in our company go to war at Madison Square Garden, and everybody's gonna be like, all right, yeah, this is good. You have to overpush Jay and kind of sacrifice some of the integrity of a lot of the things that have been happening just to get to that point. But I feel like they don't understand. They want to keep the American audience, but they don't realize that, like, as long as they just feature the guy, I feel like a lot of the American audience will still be there, because as long as they're saying, you know, we were with Kenny when he was the U.S. champion. Like, Kenny was still the man despite not being the heavyweight champion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Although I think we need to talk about what actually is Bullet Club now, because I feel like you see this when they do WrestleMania weekend, and they try to make these like Bullet Club parties, and I feel like that's something you would do if you had the Elite, because I feel like that's how they presented, was like, hey, these are people I want to hang out with, or like I want to go to like a wrestling thing that's not even a wrestling show, where I can just meet them and like be all too sweet in them and be all goofy and shit. And
right.
I feel like modern Bullet Club, I don't want to say it's not cool, but it's like they present Jay White as like this cowardly heel in Japan, but I feel like they're trying to present, they try to play he's a heel there, but like in the West, everyone thinks he's cool and wants to party with them, and the Bullet Club in general, just off of the brand. And I'm like, the group now, where it does have its strong points at times, it's a completely different atmosphere than trying to pull like the Heart Foundation '97 aspect of like hated here but loved there, or vice versa.
And it kind of, and I don't even really get it, because to me, like, you know, a lot of people just through osmosis think that Jay's the best because he's the leader of the Bullet Club, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember that guy from this one thing in America, so he must be great. But it's like, you know, they're trying to push him in that role of, well, he's hated in Japan, but he's loved here because reasons. You know, I don't feel like that works with Jay, because he's just not, he's not that type of character. He's not that cool. Like, you know, he's not somebody where you're like, I want to, like, I mean, there's going to be somebody in the comments section who's going to go, I love Jay this way, but I feel overall there's nobody out there going,
I mean, like, sure,
I want to fucking be Jay.
Paying for him at a meet and greet is one thing, but like going to like a party based around Jay White,
right? I mean, but like you could like when AJ was the leader of the Bullet Club, like you could have him be a good guy in the United States because he's AJ Styles. You know, you can have Kenny Omega be a good guy in the United States because, like, people see being the Elite and they're like, this is a funny dude, and he's a nerdy dude, he plays video games, and he's got a funny sense of humor. Like, Jay isn't putting himself out there in any other way other than him being a cowardly douche in Japan, and they're trying to present him to an American audience as, this is the baddest motherfucker, coolest motherfucker that ever fucking lived, and it's like, no. I remember saying this to you, like, in a conversation. They're trying to make him as cool as, like, a cool badass like Thanos. Or they're trying to make him, make him like that kind of villain. But, like, really, he's more low-key. Not the first Ring of Honor champion, low-key, the Thor the Thor villain. But, there's a lot of people that appreciate the slimy, snarky, cowardice of Loki. He is popular in that sense, but he isn't portrayed as a bad motherfucker in any of the Avengers movies. He's a cowardly dick.
Yeah.
And that's it. And, they want to make this guy seem like he's so badass and cool and dangerous, don't you want to just love him, to the American audience? But if you watch 10 seconds of New Japan, he's not the bad, cool, awesome guy that Devitt, AJ, and Kenny were, but they push him like he's Devitt, AJ, or Kenny.
And there's not like a Being the Elite equivalent or some kind of like Bullet Club series that where if you do want to show an other side of a Jay or Kenta or somebody like just on the YouTube show for the West, like they don't have that to even try.
Right. That's just
so you're just kind of basing it off of what you see off of like the New Japan product, and it's like that doesn't translate.
No, and
like the only people that kind of have that are God, but we can talk more about this in their match, but that has kind of that well is kind of dry.
Oh yeah, it's. I feel like there's and the other thing is, and we haven't even touched on this yet. A lot of what we're seeing in New Japan is stuff that we've seen before. Now, granted, it was good, and we didn't get Naito versus Ibushi at all in 2020. To make up for the fact that we got it 3 times in 2019, and now we're getting it to kick off the year. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because Naito and Ibushi...
Hey, you're not grateful for 4 Naito Evil matches in 1 year?
No, because that's something else. Just like... We haven't even gotten to that, but it's... Both of these, all of these potential matchups for the main event of Wrestle Kingdom, there is nothing that feels like, wow, this is fresh. And I'm not saying that everything has to be a completely brand new. These 2 guys have never wrestled before, but like how they protected Okada and Naito every time they had a Tokyo Dome match. They're like, whoa, this is big. This is a big fucking deal. In 2018 and last year. The Ibushi Naito match. It's gonna be a great match. I'm excited about it, but it's like the next night we're either gonna get a match that we saw last year at the Dome with Jay and Naito, or we're gonna see a match that we've seen 2 times last year.
Actually, no. Both matches happened last year at the Dome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jay
faced
both of them.
Yeah. So, again. Gonna be good matches, but if WWE tried this with a WrestleMania, everybody'd be shitting the fuck all over that.
And they kind of did with Charlotte, Becky, and Ronda.
Right. Exactly. Everybody, shit all over that. Why is Charlotte here? This is dumb. What are you doing? But I feel like I'm not bitching about the internet. I am the internet. I'm not saying I am the internet. I'm on the internet talking about wrestling. I have no problem with the IWC, but it's just if you really call out New Japan on this, you're kind of feel like you still kind of lose your internet street cred a little bit. Oh, he's bashing New Japan. He doesn't know what's any good. When no, this is very valid criticisms that if a company from Stanford did it, we would be tearing the fuck into them.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say, just where you talk about Naito and Ibushi, and I feel like if this was just the one-night show or only one IWGP title match this week or on these 2 shows, I feel like even though we've seen that match fairly recently, or at least within the last year or 2, you can still advertise it as, these 2 men who are known for pretty much almost killing each other each time they're in the ring. Now they're about to do this on the biggest stage possible, so imagine what they'll do now.
Right, yeah.
But now I feel like
But now that they've made Ibushi look like... Don't even get me started on just how poor that storyline is even.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, but now it's even though that they can still do that, I just feel like that part is kind of diluted because, they still, whoever wins still is going on to defend the title the next night. So it kind of takes away the aspect of what could these 2 do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's... Look, I give Jay a hard time because I feel like I just don't get... I compared Jay to Loki earlier, and that's kind of how I feel about Loki as a character. I can get why people... I respect his role and don't think that Loki should have no no role in the Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but like I'm not like, ooh, Loki's gonna be in Thor this month. Put that book on my pull list. I'm not doing that. Or ooh, Loki's gonna be part of this new Marvel movie. Huh. I'm getting a midnight showing of that. But I respect his role. That's kind of, that's how I'm seeing Jay. But it's like if you're gonna insist on having Jay White win the briefcase, if you're gonna finally do something like this, then motherfuck, do it. Don't fucking Rey Mysterio, Randy Orton, Kurt Angle this shit. Which is what they did. So Ibushi looks like a complete charity case. Getting a pity title shot against Naito, and Jay winning the briefcase means nothing. It's like, oh, you won the briefcase. I mean, yeah, he gets a shot, but it's not like Ibushi really lost anything on the fact that, oh shucks, he's gonna have to defend the belt immediately the next night. Like, okay, that's not really as impactful as, fuck, Ibushi fucking lost. Damn it, that sucks. Oh,
Yeah,
poor guy's relegated to a special singles match. Damn it, poor Ibushi. Oh shit, he won the New Japan Cup. Here it comes. There's no redeeming arc. It's just, we feel sorry for you, Ibushi. You're cool. Here you go.
and I know people have talked about like ways they could have pulled this off with the exact same result, but haven't make sense. But at the end of the day, I feel like they should have just picked who do they want to go with, Ibushi or Jay, and just run with it.
Yeah.
Like you could find a spot for them on night 2 in a big match, but at the end of the day, they should have just picked one.
Yeah.
Even if it was Jay, I wouldn't have been happy about it, but
yeah, I
would have rolled with it.
I don't want to see Jay in the main event either, but like, fuck, if you're gonna fucking have him win the briefcase, let him win the briefcase, and then I can just go, well, okay, I really hope from a story perspective, I at least go like, oh god, I sure hope Naito doesn't lose to fucking Jay. That would be terrible. I at least have somewhat of an emotional investment, and then it can be like, all right, cool, Naito retains. Now, onward and upward. Let's see, let's see what happens. Is Ibushi going to win the G1 again? Is Ibushi going to get a shot in at Dominion? Is he going to win the New Japan Cup? Is Okada going to do it? Is Tanahashi going to get another shot? Is Jay going to come back for blood? Is Evil going to come back for blood? There would have been some more. They made things more complicated, and by making things more complicated for Wrestle Kingdom, I feel like they've kind of like. Now I'm not really as excited about the fallout, because I'm either going to be like, okay, Naito, cool. I mean, he's my favorite in New Japan, but like, okay, that's cool. He's still the champion. What are they going to do now? Oh, it's Ibushi. Well, all right, cool. But I mean, he was kind of made to, like I said, get in the triggering flashbacks of just how stupid they made Rey Mysterio look when he won his first title. Or is it going to be Jay, where I'm going to be like, motherfuck this fucking guy? There's. They've done so much, it's kind of like now looking past Wrestle Kingdom, I'm just kind of like, whatever. I mean, woo.
I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest issue right now, or at least for a lot of fans. It's not even the fact that, if you watch it, you're going to get some good matches, but I feel like this is the least excited people have been about the long term of New Japan, or like wondering where it could go.
Right. Yeah, because that's something that that was always really good about New Japan was, I remember throwing my remote across the room when Okada beat Naito and thinking like, well, all you fucking New Japan fans who hate on WWE for John Cena, you just lost the high ground tonight, motherfuckers. And then I watched New Year's Dash, and it's like, oh shit, he's fighting Jericho. Oh well, that's how Naito redeems himself. He's going against Jericho, and like immediately I was hooked. I was pissed off, and then next day I'm A-okay. I'm great. I don't really see like how they can do that right now, because they've just kind of everything all year. And
yeah, because I feel like when New Year's Dash happens, it's like, regardless of what happens, it's going to be like, they're going to do like a title match, whoever wins, I don't know, Ishii's probably going to go back for the never open weight title because that's what he does.
Yeah.
And you're like, I mean, they'll be of quality, but I don't know. There's just not that excitement to it.
Right. We're like, oh shit, and this is where they're going, and this is where Naito's journey is going to take him, and this is where Ibushi's journey is going to take him. Like there
Yeah,
isn't any of that right now. It's just kind of like
yeah.
good matches for the sake of good matches. Now I love a good wrestling match, but when you can get good wrestling and good storytelling, that's like the ultimate that you want out of wrestling. And for a
Like
company,
that's what makes you watch this at 4 in the morning.
yeah, that's what makes me take a vacation based around, the end of the G1 climax is going to be on my vacation. And I don't have to stay up, I don't have to worry about
As
avoiding
opposed
spoilers
to
at
like,
work.
yeah, as opposed to like catching it like a few days later, skimming to like the 1 or 2 matches you want to see, and then kind of seeing the
so,
result,
so,
reading the
so,
results to see what else you should like watch.
yeah, and cycling through the pages upon pages of matches because they're like, hey, here's this match, here's the post in English, here's this multi-man match, here's this other multi-man match in English, here's this VTR in English, like you do when you watch New Japan World. It's
Oof.
you know,
But hey, before we get,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and before we get to talking about the card, like in detail, should we address the fact that within the next 24 hours there may not be a card?
Yeah, this. By the time this thing gets uploaded to YouTube, there may not be a Wrestle Kingdom. Who knows? I don't really know
I guess
about.
that
I don't know anything about the Japanese government, but I'm just reading that there could potentially be like a state of emergency or something, or what is it?
yeah, I mean essentially that, where people needing to stay in, evacuate home into the homes and etc.
Right.
But again, but then that's the question. They're already down to 5,000, but they went from like I think it was supposed to be like 20,000 to then 5,000. So now we may get nobody, and I guess that's the question: do they run a show with nobody in the Tokyo Dome?
I look. I still say yes, unless they know, like, hey, this thing's only going to last, which, with this whole pandemic, you don't know when it's going to end, but, like, I feel like, shitty as it is, I'd still say go for it. Maybe don't do the Tokyo Dome, maybe see if you can run Cork and Hall, or
Yeah,
run
that's
the
what
dojo or
I was about
something.
to say, because I feel like that has to be a money loser if they just run with nobody in there.
Yeah, so go to the dojo, go to Cork and Hall. I'm not going to say I like the no-fan WrestleMania, but no fans lend itself a lot better to New Japan than it did WWE or AEW.
Yeah.
And we learned that with the New Japan Cup, because the New Japan Cup was actually felt good. Like, I mean,
Honestly, one of the highlights
yeah, it
of
was,
like post-COVID
yeah, it's
or
like,
COVID New Japan.
this is still good. Like, it's still
Yeah.
interesting and fine. And yeah, it kind of sucks that there's, the atmosphere isn't there, but it just lends itself. New Japan
Yeah.
lends itself better to a no crowd show than Western wrestling. So I definitely think the show could go on if you're not really putting too many people at risk. But if there's not going to be a person in attendance, then don't do it in the dome. Move it to Korakuen, move it to the dojo, move it to wherever. Just not in a giant building with not a fan.
Ooh, but I guess that does question though, like the people that did have to like try and come here before, like, the travel closed. For example, Kevin Kelly, who is kind of really in a shitty situation right now.
Right.
He had to miss Christmas with his family to like fly to like Japan a few weeks ago to like be in quarantine enough to do the show.
Right.
So like he now may end up in being this lost in translation situation.
Right. Yeah, hopefully, if
Uh,
there's no Wrestle Kingdom, folks like that who live outside of Japan can still get home. That's the most
yeah.
important thing. Are you ready to talk about this card and do our predictions for both nights of this card?
Ask me again. I'm gonna use the bathroom right quick, but then you can just like feed me that line again.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
All right.